The rules around the change of tactics policy have been said to be confusing by some, but also a very important tool of the trade for not just punters, but also for stewards. And joining me today is Chairman of Stewards at HRV, Nick Murray. Nick, I believe there's been some amendments today to be announced regarding the change of tactics policy.
Yeah, there have been, Cody, and that's been of recent times due to discussion that's taken place at a national level. The National Integrity Conference held by Harness Racing Australia in May 2017. There was discussion regarding the different and variations of policies and requirements within a number of the jurisdictions around Australia, and Victoria have reviewed our change of tactics policy so as to align more closely with other jurisdictions in Australia.
And what does that mean now, I guess, with the way Victoria has policed and the rules regarding change of tactics? How will that change now?
So the variation to our change of tactics policy in Victoria, there will no longer be a provision for connections to notify an intention to lead and hold the lead, or lead and surrender the lead. It'll be more so down to 4 basic options available to connections to notify a change or variation to driving tactics. And basically the determination by stewards around whether or not a driver leads or relinquishes the lead will be whether, in the circumstances, the driver's tactics are reasonable or acceptable in the view of the stewards based on the evidence before them.
So it'll be narrowed down to 4 different options now. What are those options?
So the options will be further back at the start, circumstances permitting, further forward at the start, less aggressively after the start, or more aggressively after the start. So to remove that provision around maintaining or endeavouring to hold the lead in a certain set of circumstances, and that's stated, there'll be an overriding determination by stewards under the relevant Australian harness racing rules, being 149 Part 1, to ensure a driver gives their horse every reasonable chance within a race, and 149 Part 2 to ensure that a driver's tactics are acceptable in the opinion of the stewards, and also a provision for connections of a horse to give instructions that are reasonable under the provisions of Rule 149 Part 4.
Established racing patterns have obviously always formed quite a fair bit of the basis with regards to change of tactics in all forms, and that'll still be the case?
Absolutely, and under the provisions of Rule 44 Part 5, the stewards take into account the most recent starts of a horse to establish their most recent racing pattern. So the expectation will still be that if a horse has an established pattern of racing forward in the field, that horse will continue to race in a forward position unless otherwise notified to the stewards, and vice versa with regards to a horse that races back in the field during the early stages.
So in the past, a trainer could put in a change of tactics to look to lead and maintain the lead. Now that will be, today I'm going forward. My intention is to go forward with this horse, and that could mean that horse, circumstances permitting, ends up in front, or it could mean it ends up in the chair, or it could mean it ends up behind the leader, but it's more forward than in previous runs, which feels like it's been simplified a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, and that would be the intention, that a horse, if the intention of the connections was for the horse to be driven in a forward position, that would be the notification provided by the connections, approved by the stewards if appropriate, and then obviously declared publicly as to those intentions.
Do you think that there will be more change of tactics come in from trainers as a result of this, or do you think that will stay pretty consistent with the amount that we've seen so far?
Yeah, I consider that it'll stay relatively consistent with regards to the notification of tactics. Obviously it's just a slight variation as to how the policy will be administered by the stewards, but there is still that requirement to notify a change of driving tactics if it's going to be varied from the most recent pattern of that particular horse.
Well, that's good information, Nick. Thanks for joining us today, and you can get all of the announcement today, all the details on harness.org.au. That's up now, so go check that out, and thanks for watching.